Hello and welcome back to our podcast, Healing Our Community with Dr. Ray and Jean. Hi, I'm Dr. Ray.
And I'm Jean.
And this podcast, it brings real talk to Delta County about mental health and maybe have a little fun doing it.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
I'm in the big girl chair today. Thanks for the suggestion, Kip.
Yes, we are always open to suggestions, comments, questions. This is a live podcast. You can ask any questions on our Facebook page where it's airing, and also on our YouTube channel where it is also airing. And we will be able to see those comments and questions real time. Today we're talking about, on episode 11, about codependency.
Yes.
Specifically codependency, which is a huge buzzword.
Well, and I think we're all on the continuum somewhere.
Sure.
It just is important to see of how much it's impacting your life in a negative way.
Yes. So the title of our episode today is The Codependency Trap When Helping is Hurting. And in order to talk about codependency, we have to define it, right? So codependency is defined, it's just a simple definition. It's when your sense of well-being is entirely dependent on the emotional state or behavior of another person. It's I'm okay only if you're okay.
Yeah, I like to think about how codependency develops in a person. So think about if you are in third grade and you're the student of the week and you're being celebrated all week, and you want to come home and share that, and you get to the front door and your hand's on the doorknob and you think, what kind of mood is mom in, or is dad, what's going on in the house? And is it really my turn, or do I have to make sure everyone in there is okay? And so you kind of take your stuff, you put it in your backpack and you wait for your turn, and it never really becomes your turn. And so that's what codependency is, when out here is more important than what's in here.
And out here dictates what happens inside.
Yeah, if out here is okay, then right. I'm okay.
And, in rural communities like Delta County, we pride ourselves on being helpers, right? And being helpful. But codependency goes beyond that. It's helping to a point where you're enabling someone else's dysfunction and neglecting your own life.
They used to talk about some of the indicators were like if someone in the house was a nurse or some caretaker role, if there was an addiction, or if there was someone with a severe illness in the home, like those type of archetypes kind of take all the energy in the house, where it doesn't allow for people to just freely express.
And that kind of relates to boundaries. Like people who are in the helping industry or helping fields, they have to know where good boundaries are.
Right.
I always use the example of flying on an airplane, right? And when they're talking about a loss in cabin pressure, oxygen masks are going to drop from the ceiling. And if you're traveling with small kids or people who need assistance, what are you supposed to do first? Well, a lot of people think you're supposed to put the mask on the people who need assistance, but that's not the case. Every single time they instruct you saying that you have to put the mask on first, and then you can assist other people, because you have to be strong enough to be able to help others, right? And so that's where the good boundaries come in.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that they're talking about on small children, helping children, because a lot of times we're taking our oxygen mask and helping someone that's an adult that doesn't really need it at the sacrifice of ourselves. And that's really where codependency becomes destructive.
Absolutely. And so we have some questions here that all of you can kind of just answer, within yourself. And they indicate codependency behaviors, yeah,
characteristics,
and
it's important to look at those characteristics so when you're maybe crossing those boundaries of codependency, not so much if you're diagnosing yourself.
No, we're not doing that. We're not diagnosing. And I should put this one here because this is educational purposes only. We are not diagnosing. Anyway, okay. All right, so let's go through the questions here. Mood mirror. If my partner or child is having a bad day, is my day automatically ruined too? That's a good one. Do I spend more time wondering what they are thinking or feeling than checking in on what I'm thinking and feeling?
Yep.
That's like mind reading, right? Unasked advice. Do I feel a physical itch to fix a problem for someone else, even when they haven't asked me to?
And if you don't, that somehow you'll be in trouble for it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Boundary blur. Do I find myself saying yes to things I don't want to do just because I'm afraid of their reaction if I say no?
That's a really big one.
That's a really, really big one. Exhausted hero. Do I often feel resentful because I do everything for everyone else, but feel like nobody does the same for me?
You know, that one's really interesting because our emotions dictate our behaviors. And you have an emotion under there that dictates that you have to do everything. And the feeling is like bad things are going to happen if I don't do it all. And it's so cool when we're working with someone to see them like hold themselves back from doing that. And the sky doesn't fall and the other person is actually responds in a healthier way. And there's like this instant payoff. But that initial feeling, like if I don't do everything, what's going to happen is that is something that you probably learned as a child.
And it's also a way of getting attention, right? And feeling significant.
Sure.
Like you matter, right? The rescue mission. Do you feel responsible for saving people from the consequences of their own poor choices?
Yeah, I think this, especially you see this with addiction and enablers.
Right.
Or parents who are over-parenting their adult children, and their adult children are making bad financial decisions or not working or lots of type of things, and they're being rescued and saved, which is really hard to live in a home like that. It's hard for all the people in the home.
Yeah, I think the key word there is feel, or keywords, feel responsible.
Yeah.
Right, because this puts you in a position of knowing better.
Right.
Knowing better than the other person does for themselves. Right. The emotional barometer. Do you feel like you have to manage the room or walk on eggshells to keep everyone's mood stable? Oof. Yeah.
Yeah. And we know that doesn't work. And the hard part about that is when it doesn't work, you still feel like it's your fault. Like you're responsible for other people's emotions and their poor behaviors instead of setting appropriate boundaries.
Here's a good one. This is the advice trap. Do you give advice constantly, then feel angry or rejected if the person doesn't follow it exactly? This is a real good one because a lot of times people are like, I just want to share my thoughts and my feelings with you, but it comes with strings attached.
Yeah.
It's like an expectation that you do what I'm saying or do what I'm telling you to do.
You know, I would say this is really interesting in terms of the work that we do, that there's an assumption that we give advice, which we do not. Our job is not to do that. Our job is to help someone figure out what is the outcome of their choices, and they have to make the choices. We don't do that.
The responsibility shift. Do you find yourself saying, I have to do this or it won't get done right, even when it isn't your job? Yeah.
I love the word right.
I remember a client where he would do the dishes, right? Fill the dishwasher, and then his wife would come in and redo the whole thing. And he was like, why am I even going to do this? Why am I going to bother?
I had a client once that knew the right way to fold a shirt.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, you can do the thing where the sleeves go back, or you can fold it in half. And she said, well, I know the right way because I worked at a retail store and that's how we did it there. So that was the right way.
I want to know the right way to fold fitted sheets.
Oh,
that's what I want.
I don't even try.
Because those things are impossible. The validation junkie. Does your sense of being a good person depend entirely on how much you do for others? This is
You know,
badge.
the reason this is such a hard one is because how do you define good person? So you're never good enough. And it's like that constant chasing of something that you can never actually get, because you're not a human doing, you're a human being, and your goodness comes from being, not from what you do. And so you can never do enough.
The invisible workload. Do you feel like a martyr, constantly exhausted and overwhelmed, but refusing to let anyone else help you? Oh, I think of a few people that fit this.
I had a hard time with this at some point in my life, especially wanting to get the return on the help. Like I helped you, now you should do something for me.
And transactional.
And I remember getting to a point where I made a decision to only give with zero expectations and not wanting anything back, and giving because I wanted to give. And it really helped me feel really good about giving, because it's such a great feeling to give and to not have that resentment.
The fear of abandonment. This is a huge one. Do you tolerate behavior that is disrespectful or harmful just because you're afraid of being alone? There are a lot of people that do and allow such horrible behavior in relationships because of the fear of abandonment and fear of rejection.
That is one of there's two really big wounds that we get when our needs aren't met, especially when we're kids. And one of them is a fear of abandonment. And the other one is a fear of engulfment or being lost, swallowed up in a relationship where you don't know who you are anymore. These are real things. They're really important. Human beings are really not designed to live all by themselves. We need each other. It's when you're tolerating really unhealthy behaviors from other people and how they treat you, that is where you have to really work on this piece. But it's a real feeling, that fear of abandonment.
The lost hobby. If your partner, child, or friend were to go away for a week, would you have any idea how to spend your time, or would you feel completely lost?
That's a really good one.
That's a good one.
You went away for like 5 days at the beginning of the year, and we were doing a 40-day spiritual practice, and we had given up like TV and our phones and drinking and all the distraction stuff. So I was kind of sitting in the house for 5 days. I read more books than I usually do, but it is an interesting thing that I don't think we get enough opportunity to have that alone time to really know
without distracting yourself.
Yeah, without distraction, and to get into your hobbies or things you like to do.
The mind game. Do you use hints or indirect comments to get what you want rather than asking for it directly? Very, very passive aggressive.
Yep.
And it's basically because you're afraid that you'll be rejected if you come right out and are direct about what you want.
And it leaves everyone confused. People just don't get it, your subtle hints. And that confusion is frustrating, not just for you, but for them as well.
The conflict dodger. Do you keep your true opinions to yourself because you're terrified that a disagreement will end the relationship? So this is just fear of conflict, and you're going to allow, and that kind of ties into some of the other ones earlier, so you're going to allow behaviors that are not appropriate or not healthy because you're afraid of that abandonment, afraid of conflict, afraid of rejection. And
they did a study on this with couples who were both conflict avoiders, and they found that their relationship was still pretty good, except when they had to go through something really difficult, and they had no template of how to go through that because they were conflict avoiders.
Mm-hmm. Good transactional partners, but
you're right.
So those are all questions designed to kind of show the indicators of codependency. Obviously, you could see there are a lot of facets to codependency within relationships. There isn't just one absolute definition that fits. But there is that fixer mentality,
right,
where you do feel a compulsive need to solve your partner's or your child's problems. even when they haven't asked for help. There's also that component of poor boundaries that kind of goes through all of them. That's when you say yes, when you want to say no. That relates to the fear of rejection, fear of a person's reaction. And your happiness or your internal joy is dependent on other people's mood and other people's feelings.
I like that idea that if you challenge yourself to not fix something unless someone asks you, you probably find that nobody really asks you. And that's a really interesting thing. And what I like to tell my clients, especially if they're parents and their kids come to them with stuff, hoping they're going to fix it, to say, you know what, I believe in you, and it'll be interesting to see how you figure this out.
Yeah.
And that's a really good codependency blocker, to put things in the right category and let people who have the power to figure it out, instead of you taking responsibility for something you can't choose.
Yeah, there's a stereotype about men in relationships that, they just rush to fix, rush to help and fix the problem, when maybe that's not what your partner wants, right? And so training yourself to ask the question, what is it that you need from me, would be really important, because you can ask, do you need me to give you some advice? Do you need me just to listen?
Mm-hmm.
Do you need me to, help you come up with some solutions? If you are clear on what the other person needs from you, then you don't have to just jump into Mr. Fix-It mode.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're going to say hello to Ainsley. I'm wearing pink today. It's your favorite color. And to everyone in DC and the Resource Center and our neighbors who's ever watching today.
Just so you guys know, the goal of talking about codependency is shifting from codependent relationships to interdependent relationships. Mm-hmm. And so this is where both people in the relationship, they choose to walk together, they support each other, but they don't complete each other.
Right. So one of these codependency is based on need. I need to be with you. Interdependency is I choose to be with you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it seems like the need, you can't live without me, it seems like a stronger bond, but it really isn't, because someone else is going to take care of them. That's for sure. It's amazing how many people will take care of other people. But that stronger bond of I choose to be with you, I want to be with you, and it's conscious and it's deliberate, is a much stronger bond.
So I know over at Riverbend Resource Center, they are racking their brains and trying to help us come up with a good tagline at the end.
We're counting on you, because we can't figure it out either. Not even AI can figure this out.
So I want to thank you. We want to thank you for joining us today on Healing Our Community podcast. We are here live every Wednesday at 12:15, where real talk can bring about real change.